once again, I remembered that I do have a book that I'm reading like this, and once again, my lighting is weird. And I think actively messing with me looking at my Kindle because the ring light is without its stand, so it's just propped up against my computer screen right now because the stand is downstairs where I film my Tears of the Kingdom stuff. It's not moving. If I bring it upstairs, I'm not gonna bring it back downstairs, and it's not happening. Oh, sorry. Once again, you're sitting on my computer on my ottoman that I'm gonna try not to kick. And if I move backwards, if I try to move my floor chair backwards, it moves a little bit, but not a lot. Okay, let's actually just try to read this. And I don't know what I'm doing with my legs. Let's take my phone out of my pocket. So, you know what? We'll see. This is probably going to be a short video. Whatever. Right. Chapter 11, West. Yep, I need to do yoga. I haven't done it. Alright. There it is. As Gina Milago said, with a sweeping gesture toward land, feast your eyes on the draconic cesspit of Iskalin. No, thank you. Kit drank from the bottle they were sharing. I would much rather my death was a surprise. Loth peered through the spyglass. Even now, a day after seeing the High Western, his hands were unsteady. You know what? Fair. If I'd never seen a dragon before in my life and was just told that they were, like, evil creatures that might herald the apocalypse, I'd probably be pretty shaken too after seeing one fly over the ship I'm on. Firidel, right wing of the Nameless One, commander of the Draconic army. If he had awoken then the other High Westerns would surely follow. It was from them the strength of wormkind drew strength. No. It is from them the rest of wormkind drew strength. When a High Western died, the fire in its wyverns and in their progeny burnt out. The Nameless One himself could not return, not while the house of Berthnet stood, but his servants could wreak destruction without him. The grief of ages had proven that. I thought the grief of ages was because of the Nameless One. I don't remember these things. Once again, I need to read this more often. There is a piece of something on the phone screen that is right here on my face, and it's bothering me. Nope. There we go. Okay. I was trying not to touch it with my fingers so it wouldn't refocus weirdly, and just touch it with my nail. Oh. There had to be a reason they were rising again. They had fallen into their slumber at the end of the grief of ages, the same night a comet had crossed the sky. Scholars had speculated for centuries as to why and to when they might awaken, but no one had found an answer. Gradually, everyone had become to assume that they never would. Begun. It's an unsafe assumption. That the worms had become living fossils. Loth returned his attention to what he could glimpse through the spyglass. The moon was a half-closed eye, and they floated on water as dark as his thoughts. That's pretty. That's getting a highlight. Ah, poetic writing. All he could see was the nest of lights that was Perunta. A nest of lights, that's cool. A place that might be crawling with draconic plague. The sickness had first oozed from the Nameless One, whose breath, it was said, had been a slow-acting poison. Are we finally learning what the red sickness is, or whatever? A more fearsome strain had arrived with the 5 High Western. Wait. The Westerners think... Wait. The Easterners think that the Westerners have it, and the Westerners think the Easterners have it? Is that what's happening? Mr. Dumb, Trita's boy, because he showed up and everyone's like, in the East was like, oh no, we might get sick. But now they're going to the East and they think that they're sick. I'm gonna keep reading. A more fearsome strain had arrived with the 5 high westerns. They and their wyverns carried it. The same way rats had once carried the pestilence. It had existed only in pockets since the end of the grief of ages, but Loth knew the signs from books. It began with the reddening of the hands, then a scale-like rash. As it tiptoed over the body, the afflicted would experience pain in their joints, fever, and visions. If they were unlucky enough to survive this stage, the blood blaze set in. That sounds really cool, though. I'm sorry. They were at their most dangerous then, for if not restrained, they would run about screaming as if they were on fire, and anyone whose skin touched theirs would also be afflicted. Usually they died within days, though some had been known to survive longer. There was no cure for the plague, no cure, and no protection. Loth snapped the spyglass closed and handed it to Malago. "I suppose this is it," he said. "Don't abandon hope, Lord Ardeloth." Her gaze was detached. "I doubt the plague will be in the palace. It's those of us you call the commons who suffer most in times of need." Oh! Plume and Harlow were approaching the bow, the latter with a clay pipe in hand. "Right, my lords," the captain said. "We've enjoyed having you, truly, but nothing lasts forever." Kit finally seemed to grasp the danger they were in. Either he was cupshotten, or he had lost his wits, but he clasped his hands. "I beseech you, Captain Harlow, let us join your crew." His eyes were fevered. "You need not tell Lord Satan our families have money." "What?" Loth hissed. "Kit!" "Let him speak." Harlow motioned with his pipe. "Carry on, Lord Kitston." "There is land in the Downs, good land. Save us, and it's yours." Kit continued. "I have the high seas at my feet. Land is not what I need." Harlow said, "What I need is seafarers." "With your guidance, I wager we could become outstanding seafarers. I come from a long line of cartographers, you know." An outright lie. "And Ardeloth used to sail on Elson Lake." Harlow regarded them with dark eyes. "No," Loth said firmly. "Captain, Lord Kitston is uneasy about our task, but we are duty-bound to enter Iskalin, to see that justice is done." With a face like a skinned apple, Kit seized him by the jerkin and pulled him aside. "Ardeloth," he said under his breath, "I am trying to get us out of this, because this," he turned Loth towards the light in the distance, "has nothing to do with justice. This is the Nighthawk sending us both to our deaths for a pennyworth of gossip. Coombe may have exiled me for some ulterior motive, but now I stand on the brink of Iskalin, I wish to find out what happened to Prince Wilston." Loth placed a hand on his shoulder. "If you want to turn back, Kit, I will bear you no ill will. This was not your punishment." Kit looked at him. Frustration etched onto him. "Oh, Loth," he said softer, "you're not the saint." "No, but he's got balls," Malago said. "I have no time for this pious talk," Harlow cut in, "but I do concur with Estina on the subject of your balls, Lord Ardeloth." His gaze was piercing. "I need people with hearts like yours. If you think you could weather the seas, say it now, and I'll put it to my crew." Kit blinked. "Really?"
I'm grocery shopping by myself, too.
I was just trying to turn the screen back on, not turn on my video. I'm sorry. If I plug in my computer, the screen won't go to sleep, I think. A little bit of light is coming from there. Alrighty. Harlow was expressionless. When Loth kept his peace, Kit sighed. "I thought not." Harlow dealt them a cold stare. "Now get the fuck off my ship." The pirates jeered. Malago, whose lips were pursed, beckoned to Loth and Kit. As his friend turned to follow, Loth gripped his arm. "Kit," he murmured, "take the chance and stay behind. You're not a threat to Coombe, not like I am. You could still go back to Innis." Kit shook his head, a smile on his lips. "Come now, Ardeloth," he said. "What little piety I have I owe to you. And he might not be my patron, but I know the Knight of Fellowship tells us not to leave our friends alone." Loth wanted to argue with him, but he found himself smiling back at his friend. They walked side by side after Malago. They had to descend on a rope ladder from the Rose Eternal. Their polished boots slipped on the rungs. Once they were settled in the rowing boat, where their traveling chests awaited, Malago climbed in with them. "Hand me the oars, Lord Ardeloth." When Loth did, she whistled. "See you soon, Captain. Don't leave without me." "Never, Estina." Harlow leaned over the side. "Farewell, my lords." "Keep those pomanders close, lordlings," Plume added. "Wouldn't want you catching anything." The crew roared with laughter as Malago pushed away from the Rose. Don't mind them. They'd piss themselves before they ever did what you're doing. She glanced over her shoulder. What made you offer up your services as a pirate, Lord Kitston? This life's not like it is in the songs, you know. There's a little more shit and scurvy. A stroke of brilliance, I thought. Kit shot her a look of mock hurt. I take the Knight of Courtesy as my patron, mistress. She commands poets to beautify the world, but how can I unless I see it? There's a question I'd need a few more drinks to answer. As they drew closer to the shore, Loth took out his handkerchief and pressed it to his nose. Vinegar and fish and acrid smoke formed the rotten posy of Perunta. Kit kept up a smile, but his eyes were watering. How refreshing, he managed. Milagro did not smile. Do keep those pomanders, she said, worth having, if only for comfort. Is there nothing we can do to protect ourselves? Loth said, You can try not to breathe. Folks say the plague is everywhere, and no one is sure how it spreads. Some wear veils or masks to keep it out. Nothing else? Oh, you'll see merchants peddling all sorts. Mirrors to deflect foul vapors, countless potions and poultices, but you might as well swallow your gold. Best thing to do is put the afflicted out of their misery. She maneuvered the boat around the rock. I can't imagine you two have seen much death. I resent your assumption, Kit objected. I saw my dear old aunt upon her bier. Yes, and I suppose she wore a red gown for her meeting with the saint. I suppose she was as clean as a licked kitten and smelled of rosemary. When Kit grimaced, Milagro said, You have not seen death, my lord. You have only seen the mask we put on it. I like that, too. I liked it. They sat in silence from then on. When the water was shallow enough to wade in, Milagro stopped rowing. I'll go no closer. She nodded to the city. You're to go to a tavern called the Grapevine. Someone should collect you. She pushed Kit with the toe of her boot. Go now. I'm a privateer, not a milk nurse. Loth stood. Our thanks to you, Mistress Milagro. Your kindness will not be forgotten. Please forget it. I have a reputation to uphold. I love her. They struck out from the boat with their chests. When they were both on the sand, dripping wet, Milagro sculled back to the Rose Eternal, singing and quavering iskily. Harlow might have taken them both. They could have seen places that no longer had names, oceans that had never been cross-stitched by trading routes. Ooh, cross-stitched. Loth could have found himself at the prow of his own ship one day, but he would not. But he was not that man and never would be. Our most dignified entrance. Panting, Kit let his chest fall. How do you suppose we find this tavern? By relying on our instincts. Loth said unsure. The commons must get on well enough. Ardloth, we are courtiers. We have no useful instincts. I love that. Loth had no counterstroke. They made slow progress into the city. Their chests were heavy and they had neither map nor compass. You could try to ask for help. May not be the best idea, but, it is an option. Perunta had once been known as the most beautiful port in the West. These mud-clotted streets overflowing with fish bones and ashes and swill were not what Loth had imagined. A dead bird writhed with maggots, cesspits overflowed. In one unlit square, a sanctuary lay in ruins. Sabran had her... I need to slow down. Also, I think this is tilted and this is bothering me. I can't untilt it. Great! I think now it's tilted in the other direction. Okay, there we go. My knees. Ooh, are unhappy when I keep them bent for too long. Sabran had heard reports that King Segoza had executed the Sanctarians who would not renounce the saint, but she had not wanted to believe them. Loth tried not to breathe as he stepped over a rivulet of dark liquid. He dared not stray too far from Kit. People jostled around them, shrouding their faces with veils or cloth rags. They saw their first plague house on the next street. Boards had been nailed over the windows, the oak door stained with scarlet wings. Iskly words were chalked above it. Ooh, I like the scarlet wings. I know it's, not great, but, it sounds cool. I just want my Kindle to stay without me having to hold it, please. Okay, that might work for a little bit, but the glare of the ring light is now on the page, but whatever. Pity this house, for here we are cursed, Kit read. Loth looked askance at him. You read Iscally? I know, you're shocked. Kit said gravely, After all, I'm such a master of Innish, such a prodigy of verse. It seems impossible that I could have room in my skull for another language, but Kit, Milago told me the translation. The darkness was disorienting. Few candles were lit in Perunta, though braziers fumigated the broader streets. By dint of striding about with as much confidence as possible, Loth and Kit finally happened upon the tavern where they were to meet their escort to Karskero. Its sign displayed a bunch of succulent black grapes that had no business in this sump. A coach waited outside, built of what Loth was quite sure was iron. It terrified him, even before he wondered what sort of horse could draw such a thing. Then he saw. A great wolfish head turned to look at him, and a massive jaw packed with teeth slackened to let slip a rope of drool. The creature was larger than a bear. Its thick neck tapered into a serpentine body, which could be moved by its muscular legs or a pair of bat wings. A wyvern? At its side was a second monster, this one furred with gray. Their eyes were identical, embers from the womb of fire. Yakuli. Oh, Yakulus. It's a different kind of serpentine thing. The only reason I know that is definitely not because of a Harry Potter fanfiction in which it's Snape's Patronus. Absolutely not. Anyway, the offspring of wyvern and wolf. Okay, good. So I was like, the description of the face was very wolf-like. Stay still, Kit whispered. The bestiaries say sudden movements make them pounce. One of the Yakuli growled. I am probably pronouncing it incorrectly. I'm sorry. Loth wanted to make the sign of the sword, but he dared not move. Is that a cross? How many draconic creatures were awake in Iskalin? The driver of the coach was an Iskal with oiled hair. Lord Arteloth and Lord Kitston, I presume, he said. Kit made an incoherent noise. The driver pulled a lever and a set of steps unfolded. Leave the chests, he muttered. Get in. They obeyed. Inside the coach they found a woman awaiting them, dressed in a heavy crimson gown and a veil of black drum lace. I wonder what drum lace is. She wore long velvet gloves frilled at the elbow. A filigrane pomander hung at her side. Filigrane? Is that filigree? Like filigreed? The dictionary will not tell me, and I'm too lazy to look it up. Lord Arteloth, Lord Kitston, she said in a soft voice. Loth could just make out dark eyes through the veil. Welcome to Perunta. I am Priessa Ilarigus, First Lady of the Bedchamber to Her Radiance, the Donmata Morosa of the Draconic Kingdom of Iskalin. She was not afflicted. No one tortured by the plague could speak with so gentle a tongue. Thank you for meeting us here, my lady. Loth endeavored to steady his voice. Kit squeezed into the coach beside him. We are honored to be received at the court of King Sigoso. His Majesty is honored to receive you. A whip snapped outside and the coach jolted forward. I confess myself surprised that Her Radiance would send such a high-ranking lady to meet us, Loth said, since this city is so full of the afflicted. If the Nameless One wishes me to surrender my life to his plague, so be it, was her even reply. Loth clenched his jaw. To think that these people had once professed loyalty to Sabran and to virtuedom. You'll be used to horses drawing a coach, my lord, Lady Priessa continued, but it would take many days to cross Iskalin that way. Yakuli are fleet-footed and never tire. She folded her hands in her lap. Her fingers were home to several gold rings fitted over the gloves. That is so interesting. I feel like that would, personally bother me, sensory-wise, but it's a very cool look. That's definitely a vibe. Don't know what kind, but it's a vibe. A fancy vibe. You should rest, she said. However swift our coach, we have some way to go to my lord's. Loth attempted a smile. I would prefer to watch the scenery. As you wish. In truth, it was too dark to see a thing out of the window, but he would not sleep with a worm lover so close. Worm lover. This was draconic territory. He would rise from the silk pillow of nobility and find the spy within. He would harden himself to the dangers of his mission. So while Kit nodded off, Loth sat as still as he could, eyes propped open by sheer force of will, and made a promise to the saint. He would accept the road he had been thrust on. He would seek out Prince Wulstan. He would reunite his queen with her father, and he would find his way home. He could not tell if Priessa Largus slept, or if she watched him all night long. There was smoke in her hair. She could smell it. Where in Virtudom did you find her? The Belfry, of all places. Wait, are we back to our girl? Footsteps. Saint, it's Mistress Durian. Send word to Her Majesty at once and fetch a physician. Okay, so not our girl, but a girl. No, yes, Eid Durian, yeah, oof. I was thinking of Truda. Her tongue was an ember in her mouth. When the strangers let go of her, she plunged into a fever dream. She was a child again, shaded from the sun by the branches of the tree. The fruit hung above her head, too high for her to reach, and Jondu was calling, "Come here, Iadaz, come and see." Iadaz. Ooh, it's a pretty name. Then the prioress was lifting a cup to her lips, saying it was the blood of the mother. It tasted like sunlight, and laughter, and prayer. She had burned like this in the days that followed, burned until the fire melted away her ignorance. That day she'd been born anew. When she woke, a familiar woman was at her bedside, pouring water from an ewer to a bowl. Meg. Margaret turned to her so quickly she almost knocked over the ewer. Eid! With a laugh of relief, she leaned in to kiss her brow. Oh, thank the saint! You've been insensible for days. The physician said you had an ague, then the sweat, then the pestilence. Sabran. Eid asked Meg, is she well? We must first establish if you are well. Margaret felt her cheeks, her neck. Does anything hurt? Should I fetch the physician? No physicians. I'm perfectly all right. Eid wet her lips. Have you anything to drink? Of course. Margaret filled a cup and held it up to her mouth. Eid swallowed a little of the ale inside. You were in the belfry, Margaret said. What were you doing up there? Eid pieced a lie together. I took a wrong turn in the library. I found the door to the clock tower open and thought I would explore. And there I was when the beast came. I suppose its dreadful fumes gave me this fever. Before Margaret could question this, she added, Now tell me if Sabran is all right. Sabran is as well as I ever seen her, and all Innis knows the Fairdell himself could not touch her with his fire. Where's the worm now? Margaret returned the cup to the nightstand and soaked a cloth in the bowl. Gone. Her brow pinched. There were no deaths, but he did set fire to a few storehouses. Captain Lintley says the city is on edge. Sabran sent out heralds to reassure the people of her protection, but no one can believe that a High Western has woken. It was bound to happen. Eid said smaller things have been stirring for some time. Aye, but never one of the overlords. Fortunately, most of the city has no idea of what they saw was the right wing of the Nameless One. All the tapestries depicting him are hidden away in here. Margaret wrung out the cloth. Him and his infernal kin. He said Ursula had already awoken. Eid took another sip of ale, and Valesa soon. At least the others are long dead. Then, of course, the Nameless One himself cannot return, not while the house of Berethnet endures. When Eid tried to sit up, her arms shook, and she slumped back into the pillows. Margaret went to the door to speak to a servant before returning. Meg? Eid said while Margaret dabbed her brow. I know what happened to Loth. Margaret stilled. He wrote to you? No. Eid glanced toward the door. I overheard the Duke's spirituals speaking with Sabran. Coombe claims Loth has gone to Karscaro as a spy. To find out what is happening there and to look for Wilston Finch. He said Loth went without permission, but I think we both know the truth of it. Slowly Margaret sat back. Her hand came to her middle. Saint save my brother, she murmured. He's no spy. Coombe has sentenced him to death. Silence fell, broken only by the birds outside. I told him, Eid. Margaret finally said, I told him a friendship with the Queen was not the same as any other, that he needed to be careful. But Loth never listens. She raised a sad, wry smile. My brother thinks that everyone is just as good as he is. Eid tried to find some words of comfort, but had none. Loth was in too much danger. I know. I tried to warn him, too. Warn. She took her friend by the hand. You may yet find his way home. You know he will not last long in Karscaro. You could petition Coombe to bring him back. You are Lady Margaret Beck. And Coombe is the Duke of Courtesy. He has more influence and wealth than I ever will. Could you not tell Sabran yourself, then? Eid asked. She clearly has her suspicions about the story. I cannot accuse Coombe or anyone without proof of a conspiracy. If he told Sob, she's not a car. But Sab doesn't sound right either, so Sob it is. And Sob sounds like sobbing. Sabran. Sub? That doesn't sound right either. Sabran. God knows I'm probably mispronouncing all of these anyway, so. He told Sob that Loth went by choice, and I can present no evidence to counter him, then she can do nothing. Ede knew Margaret was right. She tightened her grip, and Margaret released a shaking breath. Okay, where's Truda in all of this? Or, have they decided that she's gone crazy? Because that might be interesting. Someone tapped on the door. Margaret murmured to whoever was outside. Now her Sidon was quiet and her senses blunted. Ede could not hear what they said. Her friend came back with a cup. Caudle, she said. Tallis made it specially. Such a kind girl. The hot gruel, sweetened to the point of sickliness, was the answer to everything in Innis. Too weak to grip the handles, Ede let Margaret spoon the awful stuff into her mouth. Another knock. This time when Margaret opened it, she fell into a curtsy. Leave us a moment, Meg. Ede knew that voice. With a glance in her direction, Margaret left. The Queen of Innis stepped into the room. Her riding habit was the dark green of holly. Call if you have need of us, Majesty, said a gruff voice from outside. I do not think a bed-bound woman poses too great a danger to my person, Sir Gulls, but thank you. The door closed. Ede sat up as best she could, conscious of her sweat-soaked shift and the sour taste in her mouth. Ede, Sabran said, looking her over. A flush touched her cheeks. I see you are at last awake. You have been absent from my lodgings for too long. My gosh. Forgive me, Your Majesty. Your generosity has been missed. I intended to call upon you earlier, but the physicians feared you might have the sweat. The sun lightened her eyes. You were in the clock tower the day the worm came. I would like to know why. Madam? The royal librarian found you there. Lady Olivia Marchand tells me that some courtiers and servants use the tower for venery. I have no lover, Majesty. I will brook no lewdness in this... I will brook no lewdness in this palace. Confess, and the night of courtesy may show mercy. Oh my goodness. My brain is, losing it. I hope this chapter is over soon, because I seem to be too tired. Ede sensed the Queen would not swallow the story about taking a wrong turn. I went up to the belfry to see if I could distract the beast from Your Majesty. She wished she had the strength to speak with more conviction, but I need not have feared for you. It was the truth, stripped of its vital parts. I trust that Ambassador Urquispad would not ask for a person of loose morals to be accepted into my upper household. Sabran concluded, but do not let me hear of you visiting the clock tower again. Of course, madam. The Queen walked to the open window. Setting a hand on the sill, she looked out at the palace grounds. Majesty, Ede said, may I ask why you went out to face the worm? A clement breeze floated in from the outside. Had Feardal slain you, all would have been lost. Sabran did not reply for a time. He threatened my people, she murmured. I had stepped out before I had considered what else might be done. She looked back at Ede. I have received another report about you. Lady Truda Isidore has been telling my courtiers that you are a sorceress. Damn that red-haired Gurnet. Ede almost admired her mettle, ignoring the threat of a curse. Madam, I know nothing of sorcery, she said, tinging her words with a hint of scorn. Sorcery was not a word the prioress much liked. Doubtless, Sabran said, but Lady Truda has a notion that it was you who protected me from Feardal. She claims she saw you in the clock tower, casting a spell toward me. This time Ede was silent. There was no possible argument against the accusation. Of course, the Queen said, she is a liar. Ede dared not speak. It was the saint that drove back the worm. He held forth his heavenly shield to protect me from the fire. To imply that it was cheap sorcery comes very close to treason. Sabran stated, her voice flat. I have half a mind to send her to the darn tower. All the tension rushed out of Ede. A laugh of relief bubbled in her, threatening to brim over. She's only young, Your Majesty, she said, forcing it down. With youth comes folly. She is old enough to accuse you falsely. Sabran pointed out. Do you not crave vengeance? I prefer the taste of mercy. It lets me sleep at night. Those stone-cold eyes ran her through. Perhaps you imply that I should show mercy more often. Ede was too exhausted to fear that look. No, only that I doubt Lady Trita meant insult to your majesty. More likely she has a grudge against me, since I was promoted to a position she desires. Convenient, that. Sabran lifted her chin. You will return... Let's try again. You will return to your duties in 3 days. I will have the royal physician take care of you until then, she said. Ede raised her eyebrows. I need you well, Sabran continued, rising to leave. Once the announcement is made, I will need all my ladies by my side. Announcement, madam? Sabran had turned her back to her, but Ede saw her shoulders tense. The announcement, she said, of my betrothal to Albrecht Lithelin, High Prince of the Free State of Mentendon. Well then, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I have nothing to say. I'll try to read next time when I'm less tired and when my brain works a little more. I was really busy this weekend, like good busy, but didn't get as much sleep as I wanted to, or as my brain wanted to. So, I'm going to try to go to sleep early. Famous last words, like, knock on wood. Considering that I'm probably going to go downstairs and get my Switch so I can play Animal Crossing in bed. I just got the scuba suit. I have to explore underwater now. I have to. I didn't even know this was an option. And I haven't been able to play, like, all weekend, so I want to know what's under the water. Okay, bye.